What if one day you woke up and realized the woman you married isn't the same woman standing in front of you now? Think about it. You built a life together. You gave her loyalty, children, stability. And then, without warning, she starts pulling away. She's colder. She's distant. Her phone lights up more than her smile. And deep down, you feel it. The woman you thought you knew is slipping through your fingers. Men across the country are living this nightmare. Husbands blindsided as their wives transform almost overnight. One day, she's the dependable partner you counted on. The next, she's chasing validation like a teenager desperate for attention. And here's the punch to the gut. You did nothing wrong. You worked hard. You stayed faithful. You gave her everything you thought she wanted. But somehow, it's not enough anymore. That's the hidden pain nobody talks about. The quiet fear most men carry, but never say out loud. What if my wife changes? What if she decides she wants out? Not because of me, but because of something inside her I can't control. This isn't fantasy. It's a cycle, a brutal reality baked into human nature. And if you don't see it coming, it can destroy your marriage before you even understand what's happening. So listen closely, because what I'm about to share might be the only warning you ever get. You see, what most men never realize is that their wife doesn't just wake up one day and decide to blow up the marriage. It's not random. It's not sudden. It's been building under the surface for years. And the cruel truth is this. When a woman hits her late 30s and early 40s, she doesn't just age on the outside. Something shifts deep inside her. Her brain chemistry changes. Her priorities flip upside down. Her very identity starts to unravel. The woman you married is not the same woman staring back at you now. And the gap between who she was and who she has become can swallow your marriage whole. For most of her adult life, she was fed a simple equation. Her beauty equals her worth. From the time she was a teenager, society trained her to believe that being wanted was the same as being valuable. Compliments, stares, attention. This was the currency that validated her existence. And for 2 decades, that system worked perfectly. Men chased her. Strangers admired her. Every glance confirmed what she already believed. She mattered because she was desired. But biology is a cruel dealer. Around 40, it starts to take back what it once gave so freely. Her reflection doesn't look the same. The stares don't come as often. The compliments fade. And when that fuel disappears, so does the foundation of her self-worth. This isn't just vanity. It's an identity crisis. Imagine a pro athlete who built his entire life around physical dominance. The cheers, the victories, the glory. And then suddenly, his body can't keep up. He's not bad, but he's no longer what he used to be. Now, multiply that crisis by 10, because for women, the currency of beauty isn't just part of their life. It is their life. When she realizes that power is slipping away, panic sets in. It's not just about wrinkles or weight. It's about the collapse of who she believes she is. Instead of embracing the new season of life with grace, many women fight back against reality. They don't want to accept time's verdict, so they chase a new fix. They look for the same dopamine rush they once got just by walking into a room. But now, it takes more to feel alive. At 20, a passing compliment was background noise. At 40, that same compliment feels like oxygen. It lights her up because it proves she's still visible, still relevant, still worth noticing. Your devotion doesn't count anymore because it's expected. You're her husband. You're locked in. She knows you'll say she's beautiful because you're supposed to. But when a stranger says it, When a man who owes her nothing chooses to give her attention, that's a drug she can't resist. This is why so many men feel blindsided. They think years of loyalty, sacrifice, and stability should shield them from betrayal. But biology doesn't care about your devotion. Once she gets a taste of outside validation, it hooks her. She remembers what it was like to be pursued, to feel like someone's fantasy instead of someone's responsibility. And suddenly, the steady love you've built feels boring compared to the thrill of being desired again. It's not logical, it's chemical. It's her brain rewiring itself to demand more stimulation just to feel the same spark she used to get from the simplest gestures. The terrifying part is that you can't compete with this hunger. Your romantic dinners? She processes them as routine. The vacations you plan? Maintenance. The intimacy you've perfected over years? Background noise. Her neural pathways are starved, and you, her safe and predictable husband, can't light up her brain anymore. To her, you become invisible, comfortable, safe, and in that safety, she feels nothing. So she seeks out extremes. She craves chaos. She needs that hit of dopamine, even if it means risking everything you've built together. That's why men who never imagined divorce suddenly find themselves abandoned. It's not because they failed as husbands. It's because their wives are desperate to escape the mirror that reminds them time has passed. They don't see the marriage as stability anymore. They see it as a prison, locking them into a version of themselves they no longer want to be. And once that shift happens, no amount of love, effort, or loyalty can stop the avalanche. This is the hidden countdown built into every marriage, and most men never see it until it's too late. When she starts reminiscing about the past with that glimmer in her eye, when she mentions old boyfriends with nostalgia instead of disgust, when she lights up at the smallest bit of attention from another man, you need to understand the fuse is already burning. And once that explosion goes off, it won't just take out your marriage. It can take out your family, your stability, your peace of mind. If you've seen the warning signs I just described, you already know how real this danger is. Don't wait until it's too late. Hit subscribe now, because the next parts of this series will show you exactly what's coming and how to protect yourself before the bomb goes off. Here's where things get even more dangerous. It's not just her biology pushing her. The world around her is feeding the fire. Because once that panic sets in, she doesn't sit quietly and reflect. She looks for confirmation, and society is ready to hand it to her on a silver platter. Every magazine cover, every talk show, every influencer tells her the same lie. You deserve better. You should never settle. Happiness is everything. It's gasoline poured straight on her fear. Instead of grounding her, it validates her rebellion. Instead of encouraging wisdom, it glorifies destruction. Now mix in her new circle of friends. Notice how it's almost always divorced women who step into her life at this exact stage. They're not just friends, they're enablers. They're the dealers pushing her a drug called freedom. Freedom from responsibility. Freedom from routine. Freedom from the life she once begged for. These women don't tell her to fight for her marriage. They don't remind her of the vows she made. They sit around with wine glasses in their hands, swapping stories about how oppressed they were, how miserable they used to be, how liberated they feel now. And your wife, sitting there listening, starts to see her stable marriage not as a blessing, but as a cage. She goes home after those nights with a new perspective. Suddenly, every little fight becomes emotional abuse. Every expectation becomes control. Every duty becomes sacrifice. She starts rewriting history, turning years of devotion into years of oppression. And she believes it because she has a crowd cheering her on. These women need her to jump off the cliff because they already did. And nothing validates a bad decision like watching someone else make the same mistake. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is the screen she can't put down. Social media becomes her new reality. Hours scrolling through carefully curated highlight reels, transformation stories, middle-aged women finding themselves, single moms who claim they've never been happier. The algorithm reads her mind and feeds her exactly what she's desperate to see. Proof that leaving is brave. Proof that starting over is exciting. Proof that it's not too late to reclaim the fantasy of youth. She doesn't compare her marriage to real marriages. She compares her reality to digital lies, and reality always loses to fantasy. The spiral is predictable. First, it's small changes. A new skincare routine, hair treatments, gym sessions. She swore she didn't care about. Then it escalates. Clothes that belong in her daughter's closet, obsessive dieting, endless selfies angled just right. It's not about looking good. It's about looking younger, convincing herself she's still in the game. And with every like, every compliment, every message, her brain lights up like a slot machine. Validation becomes her drug of choice. Then comes the emotional withdrawal. She needs me time. She needs space. She needs to find herself. She either picks fights daily or becomes strangely sweet and distant. Both are red flags. One means she's building her case against you. The other means she's managing guilt about what she's already doing or what she's planning to do. And through it all, society claps for her. Influencers, therapists, and friends cheer her on. You're so brave. You're living your truth. You deserve happiness. Nobody mentions the destruction she's leaving behind. Nobody warns her that the excitement she's chasing is just brain chemistry, not meaning. That the butterflies she misses are anxiety, not love. That the thrill she craves is novelty, not depth. And you're told to work on yourself, to be patient, to give her space, to prove you're worthy, while some stranger at the gym offers a compliment that hits harder than your years of loyalty ever could. That's the cruelest part. You can be the perfect husband, and it still won't matter, because perfect is predictable. Predictable doesn't release dopamine, and dopamine is the god she worships now. The scariest part is that when the fuse finally burns down, the explosion feels sudden to you. But in her mind, it's been justified for months, maybe years. By the time you notice, she's already halfway out the door. And the signs? They're always there. You just didn't want to see them. She starts reminiscing about her past, not with embarrassment, but with a sparkle in her eyes. Old boyfriends, wild nights, single days. Suddenly those memories sound sweeter than the life you built. She's not just remembering, she's longing. That nostalgia is the smoke before the fire. Then comes the shift in attention. One man enters the picture. It's rarely men in general. It's always one face. A coworker, a trainer, an old flame who slid back into her DMs. He compliments her new haircut. He notices her laugh. He tells her she looks amazing. That's all it takes. Because now she has a face to attach to her fantasies. It's no longer, I could still get attention if I wanted. It's he could be an option. And once that seed is planted, it grows like cancer. You'll notice her phone becomes sacred. She guards it like it holds state secrets. She laughs at messages you never see. She mentions his name too often, or not at all. She picks fights over nothing, building a justification to leave. Or she suddenly becomes overly nice, almost sweet to the point of being strange. One means she's preparing to blame you. The other means she's drowning in guilt. Either way, you've already lost more ground than you realize. And when she crosses that line, when she finally gives in to the temptation, that's when the real betrayal begins. She won't just cheat on you. She'll rewrite your entire marriage to fit her new narrative. Suddenly, you were never enough. You were controlling. You were cold. She'll delete every good memory, every vacation, every anniversary. She'll claim she was pretending, that she was miserable for years, that the life you built was all a lie, and she'll believe it because she has to. The truth, that she blew up a good thing for a rush, would crush her. So she needs to paint you as the villain so she can play the hero. And the fallout doesn't just hit you, it hits your children like shrapnel. She tells herself they'll understand, that they want her to be happy, that they'll adjust. But kids don't care about their parents' happiness. They care about stability. They care about both parents being there. And now, their world is split in two because their mother needed to feel young one more time. They'll spend years in therapy trying to make sense of why her panic mattered more than their security. The irony? She doesn't see the aftermath until it's too late. Nobody posts the reality online. They don't show the woman spending Christmas alone because the kids chose dad's house. They don't show her crying when the new boyfriend turns out to be just another flawed man. They don't show her exhausted from starting over at 40. All she sees is the highlight reel, the illusion. And she chases it like a gambler convinced the next spin will change everything. Meanwhile, you're left with the rubble, a home divided, years of effort erased, a wife who looks like the woman you married but thinks like a stranger. And the cruelest part? You can't love her back to sanity. You can't reason her out of this spiral, because once the bomb explodes, the woman you knew is gone. What's left is someone chasing a high you can't provide, no matter how hard you try. Here's the part almost nobody talks about. Men and women both face aging, but the way it hits is completely different. When a man hits 40, the world tells him he's entering his prime. He's the silver fox, the seasoned professional, the man with resources, wisdom, and confidence. Even with thinning hair and a growing belly, society whispers that he's more valuable than ever. His dating market doesn't collapse, it often expands, and he feels that. It gives him a sense of abundance, even if he never acts on it. Now, flip the script. A woman hits 40, and society tells her the opposite. Not that she's entering her prime, but that she's expired, invisible, past her peak. Every birthday after 35 feels like a funeral for her youth. While men are told their wine gets better with age, women are told their milk is going sour. That message doesn't just sting, it burrows into her identity. It fuels the terror that drives her worst decisions. That's why male midlife crises and female midlife crises look so different. When a man panics about aging, he usually tries to reclaim his youth with toys, adventures, and hobbies. He buys a car. He takes up a sport. He grows a beard. He embarrasses himself, sure, but it doesn't usually destroy his family. His crisis is external. He feels the urge to prove he's still got it, but deep down, he knows he's still valuable. A woman's crisis? It's internal and it's brutal. She doesn't just feel older. She feels erased, forgotten, irrelevant. Every wrinkle becomes proof she's fading. Every compliment she doesn't get becomes a reminder she's invisible. And that fear eats her alive. Her panic doesn't drive her to buy a car. It drives her to blow up the very foundation of her life. She doesn't just chase youth, she tries to deny time itself. And in that denial, the first thing she sacrifices is her family. A 45-year-old man can look in the mirror and know, if he wanted to, he could still attract women. That knowledge alone often calms the storm. He doesn't need to act on it because the option is there. But a 45-year-old woman? She believes her last chance at being desired is slipping away. That belief turns into desperation, and desperation is dangerous. It doesn't think about consequences. It doesn't care about the wreckage left behind. It only cares about feeling alive in the moment. And here's where the devastation comes in. A man's crisis might make people roll their eyes, but a woman's crisis burns her world to the ground. She tells herself she's finally being brave, that she's finding herself, that she deserves better. She rewrites her marriage as a prison, her husband as the villain, her children as resilient enough to adjust. It's not evil, it's fear. But fear in this form is catastrophic. It doesn't just scar her, it scars everyone tied to her. Think about it. A man buys a car, maybe embarrasses himself at the office party. A woman in crisis leaves her husband, shatters her children's stability, destroys a family that took decades to build. One crisis makes people laugh. The other leaves broken homes and broken kids. And that's the brutal truth nobody wants to admit. Men age with confidence. Women age with terror. And terror destroys everything in its path. Once she crosses the line, it's never just about the affair or the attention. The deeper destruction comes from the way she rewrites your entire history to justify what she's done. It's not enough for her to say she wants something different. She needs to believe she was trapped, that she was suffering, that you were the problem. Suddenly, 15 or 20 years of love, laughter, and loyalty vanish into thin air. Overnight, the vacations, the anniversaries, the family photos become fake. She'll say she was pretending the whole time. She'll claim she was miserable for years, and she'll convince herself of it because the alternative, that she blew up a good thing for a fleeting thrill, would destroy her. I've spoken to men blindsided by this rewrite, husbands who had love letters from just months before their wives left, smiling pictures, romantic notes, warm moments captured on video, proof of a happy marriage. And yet, once she decided to walk, all of it became lies. She insists she was putting on a show. She insists you were controlling, cold, neglectful. She needs you to be the villain so she can play the hero in her new story. Because if you weren't the monster, then she was the one who destroyed her family for nothing. And that truth is too heavy for her to carry. But the fallout doesn't stop with you. The kids get caught in the blast. She tells herself they'll adjust, that they'll understand, that what matters most is her happiness. But children don't care about their parents' happiness. They care about stability. They care about predictability. They care about both parents being there at the same time, in the same home. And when mom decides her fear of aging matters more than their security, it leaves scars that don't fade. Kids end up in therapy years later, trying to figure out why her panic mattered more than their childhood. And what makes it worse is the timing. It almost always happens the same way. When the kids are finally old enough to need less of her time, when life should be getting easier, when she finally has room to breathe, that's when she detonates. Because now she has space to think, space to compare, space to scroll social media and envy other lives, space to remember who she used to be, back when she was young, desired, full of potential. And the contrast between that memory and her current reality as a wife and mom becomes unbearable. So she escapes into fantasy. She compares her husband not to real men, but to imaginary ones who would worship her properly. She compares her real life not to other families, but to Instagram highlight reels and filtered smiles. She compares her 40-year-old reality to her 25-year-old dreams. And of course, reality always loses to fantasy. That's the fuel that drives her decisions. That's what convinces her to throw away something permanent for something temporary. And here's the cruel twist. You can't stop it. You can't reason her out of it. You can't outlove it, outloyal it, or out-sacrifice it. Because once she's rewritten the past, the marriage you thought you had no longer exists in her mind. She's already burned the bridge, and in her story, you're the villain standing in the way of her freedom. And no man, no matter how strong, can fight against a narrative she's decided to believe. Here's the hardest truth to swallow. Once that transformation happens, the woman you married is gone. She may wear the same face, she may carry the same name, but inside, she's someone else entirely. Different priorities, different desires, different wiring, and no amount of love or effort can bring her back. That's why so many men stand there in disbelief, wondering how their loyal wife turned into someone capable of detonating everything in her path. She'll never admit the real reason. She'll never say, "I destroyed my family because I couldn't handle aging." She'll never confess, "I needed strangers to want me more than I wanted my kids to have stability." She'll never whisper, "My ego mattered more than my vows." Instead, she creates a new script where she's the hero. She tells the world she was oppressed, unloved, unfulfilled. She paints herself as brave for walking away, while casting you as the villain in her carefully rewritten story. Because if she admitted the truth, that fear and vanity drove her, her whole fantasy would collapse. And this is the point where most men break. They think if they work harder, love deeper, sacrifice more, maybe they can fix it. But you can't. Because you're not fighting a marriage problem. You're fighting an existential crisis. You represent everything she's running from: aging, predictability, mortality. Your very presence reminds her that youth is gone, that time is slipping, that her story is more than half written. And no husband can compete with that kind of terror. So what can you do? First, recognize the signs before it's too late. If her identity is built entirely on looks, if she craves attention like oxygen, if she can't accept the reality of getting older, you're in danger. Second, understand that her leaving is not your failure. You cannot fix someone's war with time. Third, protect yourself and your children. Document everything. Guard your assets. Be ready for the storm, because when a woman decides to blow up her life, she doesn't go quietly. She takes everyone down with her. That's the brutal truth modern men need to hear. Today's culture did not prepare women for long-term commitment. It trained them to chase feelings instead of building foundations. It told them excitement is more important than stability. It sold them the fantasy that you deserve better and happiness is everything. And when the excitement fades, as it always does, they panic, they run, they destroy. Of course, not every woman falls into this trap. There are women who understand beauty fades, but character endures. Women who value permanence over novelty. Women who know being chosen once and kept forever is worth more than being chosen again and again, only to be discarded. But let's be honest, those women are rare now. Because everything in modern culture screams at them to be the opposite. So here's the warning. If your wife is approaching 40, watch carefully. Don't just look for signs of cheating. Look for signs of panic. The obsession with youth, the sudden nostalgia, the hunger for validation, the quiet resentment of responsibility. These are the cracks in the wall, the signals the bomb is armed. And when it explodes, it won't just be her life in ruins. It will be yours. It will be your children's. It will be years of work, love, and sacrifice reduced to ashes. That's the reality nobody wants to face. Women over 40 don't just leave, they destroy. Not because they're evil, but because they're terrified. Terrified of aging. Terrified of becoming invisible. Terrified of being ordinary. And in that terror, they'll sacrifice everything and everyone to feel special one more time. So don't say you weren't warned.